Today I'll be doing something very important, something that I had trouble with all this time, and I didn't really realize that that was a problem. And that was how I create my to-do lists. So usually what I did was to just have a long list of things that were usually just random to-dos all grouped together. And it was just really hard to read in a way. When I would go back to it, it just didn't make sense anymore. The reason I did it this way was because as soon as I got the idea, I needed to write it down. So that's why it made sense to write a long list of things. But when I came back to it, I feel lost. I can't see my priorities. I can't see what's important. I can't see the categories of tasks. So it was just all a jumble and just did not work for me at all. Maybe it would work as an initial to-do list, but definitely needs further grouping and organizing and just a better way to have everything laid out. So when I come back to it, I know exactly what I need to do. So here I have a few different methods of to-do lists or task management. Some of them I'm familiar with, but some of them I discovered them for the first time, and I wanted to see which one of these is going to be the best for me. And also, could I possibly combine some of these methods to create a new innovative task system, perhaps? I'm not sure. So I'm gonna go through all of this and see which ones would probably work for me, and some of them I'm already using, and see how we can combine them or which one would probably be the best for me. So the first one is called Kanban board, and this one I'm very familiar with because I use it at work. Of course, it's in digital form. I'm not using a notebook or anything like that. I think it's called a Trello. Yeah, it's a Trello board. And it's just a very simple task system. I'm not the one creating the lists, it's for work, so I have other people creating the lists and determining which one of those tasks are priority. What I do is just take the tasks and put them in progress or done when they're done, basically. This one I'm not sure if it would work in a notebook when it's not in a digital form, but I do think that if you love this style, you can use it with sticky notes, so you can just easily transfer. When you're done with one of your tasks, you just transfer that to the next column. But even though this has been working really well for me digitally for my job, I don't think it would work for my personal tasks or my project tasks. So the reason is because, other than the fact that it's difficult to use when it's not digital, because usually you just move tasks all over the place, it also doesn't provide me with categorization. I have a few categories of tasks that I do, and I need to have them in separate groups. I cannot blend all of them together. So this one would not really work for me. But maybe if there's one feature that I like from this is that I can move the tasks. But again, I don't think it's gonna work for me unless it's in digital form, like on a website or app or something like that. So I don't think I'll be using this one at all. I'm not sure if there's any feature that I can adapt to my final system, but perhaps when I go through all of them, maybe I can come back to this and see if I can adapt it in some way. So the next one is the Eisenhower matrix. This one I've seen it being used more in businesses and jobs in general. That's why it has the delegate here, which is basically to assign a task to somebody else, which I don't work with other people, so I wouldn't be able to do that. So I'm not sure what this can be replaced with. So this one is more like priority oriented. So there's the important tasks, the less important tasks, the urgent tasks, and the less urgent, right? So anything that is in this box will have to be done now or today or this week, depending on your timeline. Whatever is in this box, you can schedule later on. Whatever it is in this box, you can assign to somebody else if you're working with people. And whatever is in this box, I guess, is not important. And I do come across a lot of tasks that I put on my list. I thought they were important at the time, but at the end of the day, I just don't do them because they are genuinely not important or not a priority or just do not fit in my schedule. That's what I would put in this box, basically. But how do you know in advance, right? So again, there's some moving around of the task. So again, I'm not sure if this is going to work for me, but this can also be adapted with sticky notes as well. So you can move things around, I guess. And I feel that this one also requires a bigger list. So you would have an initial list like I would do in my planner, and then you would have to transfer things, right? You would have to transfer in each box and categorize. I don't think I can eliminate that first list. I think all of them kind of need it. I'm not sure, but I think the initial list is important, and then you have to categorize and move things to the right box, so you know the urgency of it or the importance of it. But yeah, I think this system maybe works best for businesses, but I don't think it will work for me at all. I don't like the structure of it either. It's a little bit confusing for me. I don't know. So I don't think I would use this one. And I'm not sure if there's any part of it that I like. Perhaps the priority orientation. I do think that at the end of this, I'm going to be adapting that to my task system. So from this, I guess I'm going to take only the priority orientation for the tasks, let's say. So that's the only part I like, but the rest, not crazy about that. This one is really good, and it's something that I've seen many people use in their planners. So I think this is not really a to-do list or a task list system. This is more like a planning system. So this is definitely something that I will be using. That's why I wanted to get the Hobonichi Cousin, because it has the long weekly planner that you can have enough space to put everything in, and time blocking is just so much easier there. Something that I could never do with my week's planner because it just doesn't have the space for time blocking. This is more like a to-do list, so it wouldn't work here. But this is definitely something that I want to implement in my system. This one is definitely a yes, but it's not what we are looking for right now. So I'm just going to move on to this one. So this is the bullet journal method. And this is again just for the tasks, nothing else, because the bullet journal method involves a lot of different systems for habit tracking and all of that. So here I'm just focusing on the task list because that's the system that I want to adapt right now. It's a very simple concept that I see many people use, and it's something that I think I could adapt in my other systems, but on its own, I'm not sure if it's working. So there's a key, and you have different signs for different categories of tasks, basically. But again, everything seems to be grouped together. So I'm not sure if the signs here would be enough, like if the icons would be enough for me to quickly identify which category my task is. So this one, I'm not sure. This one definitely, I think, can be a part of my overall system. But on its own, I don't think it works, especially when you have a bunch of different tasks and there's no really any priority to this. There's not enough categorization. I don't feel that this works on its own at all, unless you have very simple tasks or only have general tasks or personal tasks. So maybe for one category of things, like for planning appointments or anything like that. But when you have different projects, you definitely need more categorization than this. So that's why I like this next one. And this one is task batching. So basically you first create your list. I love that it has steps to this because I think the steps are very important. So first of all, you just write your list, because sometimes when it comes to mind, you need to write down and you don't have enough time to categorize or to group anything together. You just quickly need to write it down so it doesn't escape your mind. So I love that it has this first step. So you write everything down, then you categorize. So you could use highlighters for this. And basically you categorize each of these items and then you write them again in groups. So I think that's really important. This step also just makes this step much easier. So you quickly highlight everything and you already group it together basically, but then you write it again. So when you come back to it, you immediately go to the category that you want to work on and you immediately see each of your tasks. So I think this is a great method. I'm not sure about the structure here. I don't think this is the structure that they use. I think this is more like a concept and you can adapt any layout that you want, but I would have to experiment a little bit to see which layout would work for me. So that's another video, I think. That's a whole other conversation, the layout. So here I'm just gonna focus on the system because I really need something that works. So yeah, this is definitely something that I will be adapting. I think I should make a note here to remember which systems I want to integrate into mine. I'm not going to put this one because again it's a planning system, so I'm not going to put it in. This one I'm not sure. These two I don't think they would work for me at all so far. So yeah, I'll just leave this out. So the next one is with priority levels. And I do think this is important, but I feel that I would end up having different categories of tasks in the same group. So for example, let's say I have 3 different projects. So I would have one task for each of the projects. That could end up here. So I could end up having 3 different projects in the same group. I'm not sure if that would help me. It would definitely give an emphasis on priority, but I think it would be confusing for me. I'm not sure. This one is a maybe because I want to experiment first and see how this works. Definitely the priority orientation is very important, but I don't think I would use this layout, that's for sure. The priority system I think is very important. I would need to sort of combine it with the rest. So my goal here is basically to create my own system. So it would be a completely new category of task management. So I think many of these can be adapted to that system, and priority levels, of course, are very important. So I'm going to check that as well. But definitely the layout needs work here. I haven't found a layout that works for me yet. So yeah, for now, I'm checking this because it will end up in the final system as well. This next one I think is really interesting, and I've seen it working very well for habit tracking at least. But I'm not sure if it would work for me because this sort of progress tracking, like this tracker here, what does it mean? You know what I mean? Like I think I would need more specifics as to what these levels mean. So let's say I have one task here. If I check one of these boxes, what does it mean? It's a weird way to quantify a specific task. So maybe I would need very specific steps here. And I'm not sure how this would work with this layout because there's not enough space to write something here. It would work better as a list with perhaps the steps. So breaking down tasks into steps, much smaller steps, is very important, and I find that very useful. But this system, I don't know. It would be hard for me to understand what these boxes mean. Like what is this? Even if I put numbers, what does it mean? You know, like I finished one part of it. It would just be hard, especially when you have different types of tasks. So from this one, I will keep the idea of breaking down tasks into smaller steps. But this progress bar, I'm not sure if it works for me at all. I wouldn't be able to understand how to use it. Maybe I need to do much more research on this to see how people use it, but without any specific steps here, I think it would just be meaningless for me to complete more boxes when it just doesn't mean anything to me. So yeah, from this one, I'm just keeping the steps part. So it's important to break down everything into smaller steps. I think it gives you like a small boost when you finish one of the tasks or one of the steps. So I think this is really important. This next one, I always admired people who use this. I have used this in the past, not for tasks specifically, but to sort of organize my projects and create like a life map, let's say. So as soon as I look at that, I'll be able to see an overview of everything that I want to do, all of my goals, all of my projects, which again hasn't worked for me that well because when I look at it, again, it's just a mess. It feels like a mess and my brain just doesn't compute. So I need something much more specific. And I just find it really hard to adapt. And I'm not even sure how it would work for tasks. I guess you have the main task here, and then you create the steps like this. I guess that's how it would work for specific tasks, but I don't think it works for me at all. I find the layout very confusing and chaotic. I don't think I'll be adapting any part of this. Yeah, I don't think it works for me at all. The last one is gamification, and this is more like a concept. It's not a specific layout or anything like that. So basically, you create a game for yourself, and that game, the levels of it, are the tasks that you have to do. This one, I could see it being adapted for each project. So I would have different sort of games for each one of my projects. I cannot put all of my lists and all of my tasks in one game because I guess that would be just too confusing, and we definitely need some categorization within the system. So this one could be adapted for each project. And basically you have like a sort of playful way of getting to your tasks and finishing each task like this. You have an overview so you can see all of the things that you want to do. So this is more like a general list. And then you get points. So this looks a little bit like the progress tracking, but it's not. It's more like winning points. So it makes sense that the first box is 1 point. So that's way more specific and has a very different function than the progress tracking. So as soon as you complete, let's say, all of the points, you get the reward, which in this case, I guess is ice cream or like a treat or something that you like. This one I put like going on a trip, which again, for me personally would be a reward. This one, I guess it's extra sleep time. I don't know. So you can adapt it to your liking and your preferences here. And the idea is to reward yourself every time you finish a task or every time you finish a whole, let's say, project, or when you win the game. So each game could be like a month for each project, right? So when I complete the month of doing all of these tasks, because some projects are long term, so it wouldn't be realistic to say that you finish the project in 1 month, but you still want to get some sort of reward for it. So I guess it would be a game for either a week or a month or a year. I think it's better to be shorter, so I think it's better to be weekly or maybe bi-weekly, something like that. I really like this method and I like many of its elements. I'm not sure about the layout. This was sort of a random layout that I did, but I really like this idea. I'm not sure if there's something digital similar to this for tasks, but again, I'm not looking for digital options here, but I'm sure this would work much better for digital. But I want to try and adapt this to my final system, so I will put a check on this. So far, I think I have a better idea of what I like and what I need. And I will be trying to adapt all of this to create my own system. So after a lot of sketching and thinking and researching, I managed to come up with a system that I want to try, which is this one. I will explain everything. So again, this is just an experimentation. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I tried to make it as simple as possible by eliminating a lot of factors, eliminating a lot of the lists as much as possible. And I think that this will work, but again, I have to try it and see how it works in everyday life. But I think that this is the best that I can do for now after all of this. So first what I did was to write down everything that I want my system to include. By looking at all of these systems and all of these methods, I was able to sort of determine what I need for my system, which was very important. So I highly recommend that you go through all of this and see which one is going to work for you, just so you can determine your own needs, so then you can adapt that to your own system. So the first system was a little bit extensive. I thought it was too complex. This could work for some people, and I could even eliminate some of the lists here. But I'm not crazy about this table looking layout. It just feels a little bit, I don't know, more like digital. So I don't think I would go for something like that. Then I tried something more loose, let's say, and trying to sort of bring everything together so it's not too spread out and takes too much space, because I'm trying to be efficient here as well. So what I determined is that I need a general list just so I can write down everything that comes to mind. Then I need to quickly be able to categorize all of my tasks, because again, I have very different projects going on. And also there's other categories like chores and personal and self-care, all of those things. So I need to be able to categorize everything. Then I need to be able to break it into steps, because all of these are more like general tasks. For example, if I say design a calendar, that's not a task, right? It needs to be broken down into steps. There is research going on, there's sketching, there's ideas, there's all of these steps in between. So I need to be able to write that separately. It just helps me to see the project as a little bit easier, because it's just smaller steps that I can do. And sometimes if I don't have enough time to do all of it, I just do a couple of steps and I feel that I am progressing enough in that project. So this is a really important part for me. Then I need to be able to determine the priority of the tasks, and then in the actual execution of the tasks, I need to know what is in progress and what is done. And finally, I need to have some reward, because we need that extra boost, right? So for me, it would probably be stationery or something like that. So I guess if I finish all of my tasks, I get to buy some more stickers or a new notebook or something like that. So this is really important for me. And also I decided to incorporate the bullet journal method with different keys here, because that would help to see exactly what that task is, where there is a physical task, a cleaning task, illustration task, design task, whatever it is. So I say task a lot. So yeah, this was a very important part to determine my needs. Then it was a matter of determining which layout works best. I think that these are very clunky and sort of doesn't feel like something that would work for me. So then I thought I would create some sort of board, let's say. So I started designing this one. I feel that by separating everything into boxes, that just makes it easier on the eyes, and it helps you to direct your attention to where it needs to be. So here we have the general list. As soon as you write the general list, you go in with colors and highlight the different categories. At first I had it as a different column here, but I thought it would be a good idea to eliminate that extra column by just color coding. In the next column, we take each of the tasks and break them down into steps. So here is where you would see each of the tasks and their steps. And then I also eliminated another column, which was the priorities, by just highlighting the priorities. So we come in and we highlight the projects that we want to do, for example, that week or that month or that day, whatever your timeline is. And then you can transfer that to the progress box. And then when it's done, you move it to the done box. And obviously at the end, you have the reward. So I think this is the best system because it's sort of compact. It eliminated 2 whole columns because of the highlighting and the color coding. So I think this would work best for me. I would be able to just immediately go in, see everything that I want to do, everything that is in progress, and everything that is done. I do feel that there's something missing from here. Perhaps I could add another box for notes, reminders, or just extra things that I can't really account for right now because I haven't really used it yet. So I'm sure that as soon as I use it, I will come up with more needs, and also I might be able to improve it further. So this week I'm going to try to create this as a layout so I can use it for the tasks that I have for this week and see how this goes. I'm really looking forward to using it and to see how useful it can be, or how I can improve it, or if there's any other needs that will come up from this. But most importantly, I can't wait to start actually improving my productivity, because this is what it's all about, right? I'm trying to increase my productivity and to overall have a very functional and efficient system for my task management, because eventually I would love to be able to add more tasks to my schedule without feeling overwhelmed, and also to finally finish some of my old tasks that are just hanging out in all of those random generic to-do lists. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope this has helped you as well if you're struggling with this. Let me know any ideas that you have, any comments, any feedback is welcome at this point. I really need some help here. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.